Girlfriend refused to stop a romantic D&D session with another player, calls me controlling, now our future feels uncertain. I, 27 male, have been going out with my GF, 25F, for almost 4 years, and we've been living together for a few months. She's funny and wonderful and kind and honestly pretty much everything I ever wanted in a girl. She's also a bit of a D&D type nerd, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's good that she has her own friends and hobbies. She tried getting me into it, but I don't really get it. She tried teaching me about D&D, but there were just too many weird rules and dice, and I just didn't see the fun in it. We tried playing Baldur's Gate 3 together thinking it would be easier to get into for me, and for me to experience her world in a way, but I got really bored really fast, and at that point it was just better to let her do her own thing. We've got plenty of other stuff we do together, and as I said, it's not a big deal for her to have hobbies that don't include me. And she does love her hobby. She gets very excited about her weekly games and sometimes tells me about the epic adventures they go on, which admittedly sounds pretty fun secondhand but is not really for me. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so we have a bedroom and a home office we share, where our laptops are. Her D&D games are online, and usually happen in the evening, so I just hang out in the living room or go out when she plays to not intrude. But a few weeks ago I noticed that she locks the door when she plays. I thought it was a little weird because why would you lock the door to play D&D? And it didn't sit right with me. So I did what I now think might have been very sad and pathetic, but I genuinely didn't know what else to do. The last few weeks when she had her game, I sat out in the hall, by the door and listened. She uses headphones so I could only really hear her side of the game, and at first it was just some stuff about rolling dice, joking around with her friends, and spells doing whatever, but I kept at it. I sat there for 4 hours last week and over 2 hours this week, but eventually I heard it. She was talking about / with another person and it was really romantic. It was tender, and very emotional. She legit said something like, I love you, so I want to help you save your family or something like that, in a clearly romantic way. It went on like that, like a clearly emotional discussion with a romantic partner that lasted a solid 15 minutes. Then it went back to other stuff, but by that point it didn't matter. I was really upset, and went back to the living room, and when she came out after session I confronted her. I told her I heard her talking and telling some guy how much she loved him, and how he was the only one who ever got through to her or something, so she would do anything for him. She said I was taking it out of context, and that it was just pretend and playing a character, but I told her it didn't matter. This wasn't some video game where her character was speaking written lines to another character with written lines who wasn't real. She herself was saying sweet, loving, romantic things to another real person. And it hurt to hear. It felt like cheating. She said it wasn't cheating, and her character wasn't her. She just did it for the drama, and thought being romantically invested made her character better. She also said that me sitting outside to listen in on her game was a violation of her privacy and showed that I didn't trust her, which was why she felt like she needed to lock the door in the first place. I apologized for that, but at the same time I said that me being wrong to eavesdrop doesn't justify what she did, to which she said that she didn't do anything wrong. It was just what the game was. And it was just a game, but that made me feel even worse. Maybe I'm being whiny or misreading it, but she is the first person I was ever really vulnerable with like that, and the way she spoke to me when she told me how much she loved me, it was just so similar to the way she spoke as her character, that it made me uncomfortable. It made me feel like something that was only mine and only for me was just given to someone else for a game. It felt like it cheapened it. Was she faking it with me? Was she genuinely feeling it for that other person? I don't know what exactly it is that's bothering me, because technically she's not wrong. But I don't care if she's technically not cheating. I just feel like there are certain sides of my GF that should be reserved only for me, shouldn't there? I couldn't really verbalize it to her, and after a bunch of arguing back and forth with just went to bed. For the past few days we've been in this weird state of limbo where we're going on like nothing happened, but also there's clearly tension. Today I couldn't take it anymore and I said that we need to talk about it. I said that I understand her hobbies are important to her, but I am her BF and there should be certain things that are just for me. I can't go on knowing that she's talking like that to some other guy. So I told her that I support her going on with the games, but I asked that she no longer lock the door, and no longer do whatever romantic stuff she does in-game. She said I didn't mind when she talked to me at length about her romance with that Asterion guy in Baldur's Gate. I told her, again, that that is not the same. I don't mind her playing at romance with a bunch of pixels, and being moved by fiction, but that her D&D game isn't just fiction. It's her telling those things to an actual person, and that bothers me, so I want her to stop. She said I was being possessive and controlling, and that I can't tell her not to have hobbies or how to behave. I told her that's true, but if she doesn't understand how I feel about this we might not have a future together. She got angrier and said I'm clearly not in a state to be having this discussion and we'll talk again when I've calmed down, and went to school. She's getting her MA, but in the time since I've been the opposite of calming down, I just get more upset the more I think about it. Clearly me being upset should at least make her consider stopping even if she isn't actually cheating outright. Shouldn't my feelings matter on this issue? But also, maybe I'm not being reasonable? Maybe I am overreacting? Help. Update 1. So when she came home from school I made apology dinner, homemade pizza from scratch, her fave, and we sat down to talk. She started by demanding an apology because whatever else I had to say, eavesdropping and not trusting her were huge fuck-ups on my part. I agreed and apologized immediately because that was shitty behavior on my part, no question. That helped her be more open to hearing me out. So I said, more calmly and tactfully, that it bothers me that she is simulating romantic love with a person I don't know in context I don't understand. I said that I can and do apologize for my actions, but I can't change how I feel, and that also needs to be discussed. So she asked what I had in mind. I told her that I think trust should go both ways, so me trusting that the game is just a game and it doesn't mean anything is well and good, but in return I'd like for her to keep the door unlocked and let me sit in on a few sessions. I promised not to be disruptive, not to overreact or interrupt the game and to bring up any issues I had privately with her after the game was over. She seemed relieved because she was worried I'd demand she drop the game or break up with her, and said she personally didn't mind but she needed to bring it up with her group, which I thought was very reasonable. The rest of the evening, though, she was constantly on her phone, constantly getting Discord notifications and seemed more and more upset. This lasted for literally hours, well into the night, past when I was asleep. I asked if anything was wrong and she said maybe, but not to wait up, and she promised to tell me everything in the morning. I didn't get much sleep, but I also didn't want to pry too much having just promised not to. So come morning, when I asked what happened, since she clearly didn't get much sleep and was clearly nervous, she said she brought it up with the group and reactions were mixed. I'm gonna give these people fake names to keep track. So when she brought it up, everyone seemed okay with me listening and except Joe. Joe is the guy whose character she had the romance with. Joe said in their group chat that he wouldn't feel safe acting, they call it role-playing I guess, when there was a stranger in chat, and wouldn't participate in any game I was present for. This obviously made my GF respond that seeing the relationship between their characters was the whole point of me listening in, to which he said I'm being unreasonable, and violating his boundaries by making unreasonable demands. This was already pretty bad in my eyes, but then she told me about the private messages. After the group exchange she got 3 messages. One was from Joe. Joe wrote a long, really long message about how much he cared about her, and much it hurt him to see her dim her light to appease a controlling abusive boyfriend who stifled her creativity, and how she should be with someone who appreciated her, let her be herself and shared her interest, and that he was available if she wanted to talk. He finished with a paragraph about how women like her always go for selfish assholes and don't appreciate the wonderful guys all around them. How he felt such a connection with her through their characters and how could she ignore it. I genuinely couldn't believe I was seeing one of these in the wild. I don't usually get secondhand embarrassment, but that shit was so cringe I almost died. Like I genuinely laughed. I couldn't really be angry, that shit was just so sad. She also got messages from Jenny, another player, who said Joe seemed way too invested in the romance for her taste, and she thought those segments were taking up a lot of game time which she though was better used elsewhere. She never said anything because she thought my GF was really into it, but now that it became an issue she thought she should. She also mentioned she found Joe creepy, which I personally appreciate. I don't know any of these people IRL because it's an online group, but I certainly think Jenny might be my new best friend. Finally there was a message from Mitch, the guy running the game, who said Joe reached out to him demanding I not be allowed to, and this is a quote, violate the intimacy of the group. And he should talk to my GF too to get her to drop me listening in, and possibly drop me altogether. I don't even know how or why Mitch would even attempt to do that. All this resulted in them canceling the next game as they work it out. My GF didn't respond to Joe yet, but at least she seems relieved that I'm taking this well. I told her of course I am. I'm not going to be upset over some guy being into her. She's wonderful, of course guys are going to be into her wherever she goes. The issue I was worried about was that she was into him back, and these messages convinced me that that's clearly not the case, which seems to have made her feel a lot better. We talked a bit more and she now seems to agree that locking the door, in context, might have seemed suspicious and that going forward our ground rule should be that character dynamics that make her feel like she should lock the door might be the exact dynamics she should make me aware of, while I promised to trust her to tell me these things and not to eavesdrop anymore, and approach her openly about listening in on sessions. Also the romance with Joe's character isn't going to continue, but seeing how she feels about Joe now I think I do trust her to do character romance going forward, just to not hide it from me and be selective with who she does it with. I don't know how the Joe situation is going to be handled within the group, but I guess that's up to them, since playing with him is obviously going to be very awkward for her. Guess since she doesn't intend to keep up the romance it doesn't really matter. Small edit: since the situation basically resolved itself now, Joe didn't like being left on red. So he wrote my GF a very rude message about how, I kid you not, she was going to die alone with cats because her asshole boyfriend is going to leave her when she loses her looks. He literally never saw her in person. To be clear, uncovering my secret plan, I guess. Update 2. First off, from Joe's meltdown to the group chat drama, the next 48 hours were a whirlwind. When I wrote last, I genuinely thought that the Joe situation would fizzle out. Oh, how naive I was. Here's what actually happened. Once my girlfriend, let's call her Kay, left Joe's last message on read, I honestly thought he'd get the hint. Instead, less than a day later, his drama cranked up a notch. Apparently, Jenny called him out on his little tantrum, in the group Discord, no less. She dropped screenshots of the DMs she got from him, which were similar to Kay's. He doesn't really get you the way I do and you deserve better. that kind of desperate poetry. Turns out, Jenny's character had rejected a romance with his last campaign. He did not take it well then, either. Mitch, the DM, realized there was now a god-tier awkwardness in the group and did the one sensible thing. He took initiative and messaged everyone privately for their side. This spun off into what I've now learned is called a Session Zero, where everyone lays down expectations and boundaries, even mid-campaign. Jenny DM'd Kay in the middle of the night to say she was considering leaving and starting a new game together, and that Kay deserved a better group. Mitch told Kay he was booting Joe, not just for being a creep, but because he apparently made at least 2 other players uncomfortable in private. So just as Kay was about to swear off online D&D forever, Jenny invited her to join a women and NB-only group she'd been putting together. Suddenly Kay's Discord exploded with friendly new messages and intro memes, and there was even talk of D&D nights with wine and yelling at dice. Kay, who was clearly stressed for days, turned back into her old excited self almost overnight. She started planning her new character, and bounced ideas off me for the first time since this drama began. For those who care, she's making a bard with anxiety, which feels fitting. She made me help pick her bard's instrument. I voted bassoon. She said that was gloriously unsexy, so now it's a bassoon. Meanwhile, the X group didn't die quietly. Joe tried guilt-tripping Mitch, then started vague posting about backstabbing and fake friends on the campaign subreddit, yes, that exists, which just got him ratioed into oblivion. For those keeping score, Joe blocked Kay everywhere, and then unblocked her to send an I forgive you message a day later. Plot twist, she did not ask for forgiveness. For a few days, our apartment was both lighter, a weird tension gone, and much more D&D centric than usual. Kay came out of her shell. She started inviting me to brainstorm her character's tragic backstory, and showed me a playlist she made for dice rolls, and even shared a meme about NPCs running on Starbucks in spite. I admit, I don't get most of it, but I like seeing her glowing and geeky again. And, surprise, I sat in on their new game's character creation session. The group introduced themselves, everyone with pronouns, Session Zero style. Jenny introduced me as Kay's imbo boyfriend who survived a Joe boss fight, off to a great start. They asked if I was joining and I said, I'm level 1 in dice knowledge. Laughter all around. I mostly ate chips and listened, only half understanding the character sheets, but I came away with a sense of what actually goes on. It definitely wasn't erotic audio roleplay, mostly it was laughing, someone's cat walking across a webcam, and lots of inside jokes about goblins and taxes. After the call, Kay turned to me and asked, so, does it still feel like cheating? And for the first time, honestly, it didn't. It was just her being silly, creative, and wildly nerdy with her friends. There was a new in-game romance being discussed, between Kay's bard and a tiefling barmaid DM'd by Jenny, but it was goofy, more than anything. Kay even let me read her character's love letter to a potion bottle. No, really. So, the drama morphed into something I hadn't expected. My jealousy got replaced by curiosity, and suddenly we had a new thing to share. Kay started inviting me to help paint minis. Turns out you don't have to play to put tiny axes in the hands of rainbow-haired gnomes. And no, I did not paint them all to look like cats, but I was tempted. She explained spell slots to me using kitchen metaphors. We even did a 2-person one-shot where I played a medieval barista who only rolled above a 10 when telling bad puns. Since the Joe implosion, we've gotten closer. Kay got vulnerable about why the game meant so much. Turns out it was less about romance, more about escaping stress and telling stories with people who see her. And I finally told her how afraid I was that she'd find someone through her hobbies who clicked better than me. She said she wished I could see myself the way she does. I don't want more romance in my life. I want more weird. And then she made me a playlist called Songs for When Your Boyfriend Thinks D&D is Cheating but He's Actually Awesome. One last thing, Joe's not entirely gone. Kay got another message from a new account. This one was a bizarre apology that quickly became a 5-paragraph essay on how role-playing with a romantic partner is spiritually dangerous, and that the Lord of Light urges her to break this cycle. Apparently, Joe's latest campaign involves LARPing as a televangelist. She blocked the new account. I don't know where we'll be in a year, maybe I'll roll a wizard, maybe not, but I do know that I trust Kay. Her worlds are weird and hers, and if she lets me peek inside once in a while, I'm good with that. Update 3, well, readers, I knew the D&D drama with Joe was wild, but nothing could have prepared me for the next level of strange that waded into our lives this week. If last update was a relief and a fresh start for Kay, this one is, like several plot twists, a side quest, and a minor boss battle rolled into one. It all started innocuously. Kay fully settled into her new group. The bard with anxiety is now canonically a disaster bisexual with a penchant for bassoon-based puns. So, yes, I walked past her office last week and heard, I seduced the guard with my embouchure. I'm still not sure if that's a D&D thing or an inside joke. But morale was high. The group's weekly session became a ritual. Thursday nights, door open, snacks shared, ambient dice clatter. I started picking up more of the game's language, Arcana check, Nat 20, and was beginning to genuinely understand the appeal. Then, last Sunday, Kay got a LinkedIn message of all things. No joke, LinkedIn. It was from Joe's actual ex, Caitlin, because Kay and she share some niche program at their universities. Caitlin's message was concerned. She apologized for intruding, then gently warned Kay that Joe had a habit of entangling himself with women from online spaces, pushing boundaries, and then going nuclear when rejected. I recognized the campaign group name from a post he put on Reddit. You seem nice. Please be careful and lock down your accounts. He doesn't always stop with just DMs. Kay thanked her, reassured her it was just online nonsense, and blocked Joe in all the places she hadn't already. At this point, I'm thinking, the Joe saga is truly over. But oh no. Joe apparently applied to a job at Kay's university. And in a twist that can't possibly be real but absolutely is, ended up in a Zoom orientation with Kay in the attendee list. She realized it when she saw a Joe D join, then spam cheers emojis as soon as she spoke. Kay instantly killed her camera and texted me in the most all-caps panic I've seen. He's on my campus? What followed could best be described as a D&D-worthy infiltration operation, involving a frantic search of university faculty directories, a late-night recon mission to the main hall. We found no Joes but did find 3 stressed-out grad students and a loose chinchilla, don't ask, and finally a straight-up call to campus security. Thankfully, security said they can monitor for non-student visitors associated with disruptive behavior. Not in so many words, but they got the drift. For now, it seemed Joe was just trying to send a message, not actually show up. Still, for the first time since this started, I saw Kay genuinely spooked. Because Kay is braver than me, she decided the next D&D session would go on as scheduled. She didn't say anything to the new group at first. She was embarrassed, I think, about all this following her, but Jenny noticed Kay's mood. If you want, we'll all adopt fake accents and pass as a medieval witness protection program, someone quipped. Within 5 minutes, Kay was laughing fit to burst, and insisted on doing the entire session in a Scottish accent so bad I kept waiting on the ghost of Sean Connery to haunt our apartment. Midway through, another wrench, the group's Discord pinged. A new user, Light of the Sword, tried joining. This was, of course, Joe, wielding a fresh batch of sock puppets. Jenny, MVP that she is, booted the account immediately and posted a zero tolerance for creeps meme featuring a kobold with a rolled up newspaper. Afterward, several women in the group shared stories of dude bro D&D disasters. Kay confessed she'd never felt more seen by complete strangers. At this point, Kay decided to formalize some boundaries, offline and on. She reached out to Caitlin and commiserated over their mutual Joe experience. Turns out they're both part of a campus gaming club, and Caitlin invited Kay to an in-person D&D night, no Joes allowed. Kay was hesitant but, after much debate, and my promise to be her designated escape ride, she went. She took my old dice for luck. She came back glowing, recounting tales of how her bassoon bard destroyed a necromancer with the power of self-deprecating lyrics. There once was a man from Baeter, whose charisma score was 4. She said she feels like she's finally got a place, online and offline. But the wildest development? Kay's new group decided to make a charity one-shot stream benefiting a local domestic abuse resource center, in support of women and queer folk in gaming spaces. Kay's co-DMing it. She asked me to help make snacks for the table, and, here's where it comes full circle, asked if I wanted a tiny cameo, maybe as the most clueless shopkeeper since Monty Python. Suddenly, that thing I dreaded, her hobby, her joy, turned into a bridge. The more she brought me in, the less scared I felt that this world would pull her away. The level of trust feels deeper, not out of obligation or policing, but because she wanted me to see why it mattered. She even made a joke that, if I ever felt threatened again, she'd make sure her next D&D romance would be with a mimic disguised as a breadbox. Apparently, that's a monster? Tabletop games are weird. Bonus, a few other D&D groups in our town heard about the Joe debacle. Turns out everyone has a Joe, and there's now a monthly women/non-binary run night, including a creep registry. 2 strikes, you're out. Jenny's now running a homebrew murder mystery and invited Kay to play a grumpy poet wizard whose familiar is a passive-aggressive crow. There are rumors they're making t-shirts, zero tolerance for creep encounters. It's only been a month, but we've gone from tense, anxious silence to, honestly, way too much dice talk and a fridge full of character sheet post-its. I still don't really get the rules, but I get Kay. She needed adventure and trust and to not apologize for shining. And I needed to not be so threatened by what makes her glow. So, that's the latest. Romance, drama, a brush with a real-life goblin, Joe, and the beginning of a new campaign, inside and outside the game. Also, for those keeping score, I rolled my first natural 20 last night. The only witness? Kay's ridiculous bard, who swore to compose a sonnet in my honor. There once was a chef making pie, who made even mimics sigh. Update 4. Well, I was hoping for peace and instead a whole new arc began. If you told me 2 months ago that having a minor crisis over fictional elf romance would lead me to helping orchestrate what ended up being the most chaotic, heartfelt, and bizarre D&D adjacent double event in our city's geek scene, I'd have laughed. But here we are. To recap the absolute minimum, Kay's D&D life is now firmly Joe-free and thriving. Our relationship is stronger. Joe was, regrettably, still lurking on the digital outskirts, and somehow there's been this slow evolution from her secret nerd world to something we, embarrassingly, joke is co-op mode. And where does it go from there? Apparently, big. It all started with that charity one-shot Kay and Jenny's group organized. The planning took over our apartment. Kay's ideas for the plot: what if the villain is a sentient karaoke machine possessed by a musical ghost? My kitchen overtaken by dice-shaped cookies and potion of healing jello shots, non-alcoholic, all horrifying colors, and Discord pings that sounded like the start of the end times. They asked if I'd agree to DM a warm-up villagers-only improv game for the stream, just to break the ice, and, terrified but unable to say no, I agreed. That's when Kay's new friend from campus, Kat, not to be confused with Caitlin, the Joe ex, who is now also a regular at game night, because trauma bonding is real, suggested taking the charity event hybrid, the first half online, the second is a live-streamed gathering at the actual campus rec room. Suddenly, the whole thing exploded. 2 local game stores wanted in for prize support, the Queer Student Alliance offered to run a resource table, and we got a shy email from someone who'd heard about the creep registry. By the week of the event, Kay was panic organizing spreadsheets and singing pieces of her Bard's backstory lyrics in the cereal aisle. Sample: my initiative's low, but my spirit is high. If the dice say I die, tell my crow not to cry. And here's where things went all the way off script. A few days before the event, we started hearing rumors, from our new network of mutuals, that Joe had joined yet another nearby group's Discord with a different username. We didn't pay it much mind, until Kay opened a throwaway Instagram account, meant for event promo, to discover another weird DM. This one was like a cosmic joke. Wouldn't it be more authentic to let everyone play, without dividing people by gender? And maybe you're becoming exactly what you claim to hate. Subtle. Followed, 10 minutes later, by a dozen or so new, freshly made accounts, all with names like RealGamer 2024, posting variations of Stop the Gatekeeping on the event page. Our mood, understandably, tanked for an evening. But then, without warning, a backline of support rose up. Jenny and Kat instantaneously started deleting and blocking, then issued a zero-tolerance public note. A flood of "we got you" DMs arrived from people in other local groups, some sharing screenshots. Apparently Joe had been kicked out of not 1 but 3 more Discords for complaining that he was a victim of reverse sexism. Sigh, the night of the charity event, we thought we were ready for anything. About 50 people showed up at the campus rec hall, with another 200 on Twitch, covering everyone from student theater nerds in actual cloaks, to suspiciously normal-looking engineers, to a contingency of moms running a Goblins Against Harassment bake sale. It was wild, sweaty, sticky with jello shots and more welcoming than any gathering of internet strangers has any right to be. And that's when the internet trolls tried to crash the Twitch chat. But Jenny, who I am now convinced could run a cybersecurity operation in her sleep, deployed a swarm of moderators and a bot that literally replaced any banned phrase with a randomly generated lizard fact. Did you know? Some geckos can detach their tails to escape predators. Chat went from hostile to hilarious instantly, with the crowd competing to provoke the most ridiculous fact. Meanwhile, Kay, in full bardic mode, set the tone by improvising the most melodramatic death scene ever seen by a plastic sword and a gluten-free cupcake. Later, a visibly nervous first-year student DM'd her to say, "I was too scared to join before, but now I see I can fit here, weirdness and all." Kay insisted I play the shopkeeper, Cranky Greg, purveyor of slightly damp spellbooks. I lasted exactly 10 minutes before I got booed off stage for selling them a potion labeled anti-gravity that turned out to be just sparkling water. The in-person portion wrapped with a roundtable that was half impromptu musical parody, half group therapy. Kay gave a short speech about the difference between protecting what you love and locking it away from anyone new. She ended with, "To everyone who's nervous about shining too bright or being too odd, there's room for you at the table, and 1,000 dice with your name on them." Epilogue? That night, exhausted and sticky with cookie icing, Kay and I debriefed on the couch. I realized I'd gone from worrying Kay's hobby would replace me, to being actively proud of her for building something bigger. She looked at me and said, "If you ever want in on my next campaign, there's a bard with a bassoon who really wants to recruit you," and then handed me my own set of dice. They're a ridiculous orange and yellow swirl she claims was for his inner gremlin. Okay, I teared up a little. Shut up. As for Joe, a quiet update came in the next morning. Turns out the campus club banned him after one too many satirical emails, one of which, brilliantly, included a looted copy-paste of my Cranky Greg potion menu and a smarmy lecture about gatekeeping critical hits. He is, as far as we know, gone for good from our spheres. It's not that the drama is over, exactly. But things feel open now, in the tabletop, in our relationship, in Kay's willingness to trust people and, honestly, in mine. We set new ground rules about honesty before insecurity, hobby boundaries, and the weirdness of internet fame. Apparently our memed lizard factbot is getting adopted by 2 national RPG podcasts, for real. Kay says her next character is going to be a chef who moonlights as a detective, just to mess with me. Anyway, if you're thinking of getting into D&D, or worried about sharing your weird world with the person you love, it can be messy, it can be hilarious, and yes, sometimes it involves bassoons and the world's worst potions. But damn it, it's worth rolling the dice.